measured out most of our ingredients. We have a couple little more left, and then we will get going with the rest of the recipe that we started earlier this morning. So, that's my dog. Okay, great. So now we need, I was supposed to use maple syrup, but I ran out this morning, so we're doing a little bit of a swap. I had date sugar in my pantry, so we're going to use date sugar, but to take into account the lack of moisture from the maple syrup, swapping out to date sugar, we were already going to use Greek yogurt, but we're going to add a little bit more Greek yogurt. Sorry, excuse me. And as a reminder, today we're making, it's part of the Coach Fuel line that I'm developing, baking for my crush, who is a coach and is very fit, and so the idea is that baking for my future boyfriend is macro-friendly, fun treats that we can have a little bit of fun with, but also make sure that we're not losing all that hard work that we put into the gym. So it's macro-friendly, fun treats. So alright, so we're going to measure out 100 grams of date sugar. I like working with date sugar. But it is very pillowy. Like, it does leave a little cloud of dust in the air. Reminds me of that Gone Girl scene when he walks them through the sugar like it's clouds. I mean, like it's snow. Trying to close this bag. You see, little bags are always not always the easiest to reseal, which is why I love a good binder clip. So we're just gonna close that. No. Okay, we have our date sugar. Now we need 145 grams of Greek yogurt. And Greek yogurt is actually pretty dense, so we're going to use our little container here. Sorry, I thought you guys could see. There we go, that's better. Right? You can see me, you can see the counter. Okay, good. Alright, so, how much is in here? It's probably close to what's in this tub, actually. So, we're going to take this rubber spatula, and we need 120 plus the 25 to make up for the date sugar that we're using. So that's 145, which I think should be close to what's in here. 108. But actually, we might need to open up another one. 133, 136, 141, scrape it all out. Scrape your bowls, ladies and gents, especially thick, dense items like yogurt. 142.9. I'm gonna take that because we needed 100 plus around, no, we needed 120 plus around 25 more, which would have made it 145. This is 142.9. I'm gonna call that 143. I think that's close enough. I don't want to open another container. Well, do I? Actually, no. This is the first time I'm making the recipe, so I should try to get it as close as I can to what it needs. So if this is, yeah, 142.2, let's go ahead and just open another container. Welcome to the inside of my brain as I just talk you through my thoughts. Welcome to my brain. Okay, so we have 142.4. Feel free to say hi in the chat if you want to. It just might take me a second to see it, but I'll definitely make sure to say hi back if you say hi in the chat. Okay, 142.3 is where we're at, and we need 145. Oh, that just went down to 141.3. Okay, 145 is what we need, but we don't, it's dense, so it's not going to take a lot. See? 153. 146.5. Okay, a little bit stays in the container, so we're gonna call that 147. 145.8. Yeah, that's close enough. That's a good close, because I'd rather be a tiny bit over than a little bit less. Okay, so now, we're almost there. We have almost everything weighed out. Now we need, okay, let me run through everything really quick. We have our oat flour. We have our homemade pistachio paste that we made earlier today. We have vanilla protein powder. We have chia seeds. It calls for maple syrup, but I ran out of maple syrup when I was making the pistachio paste, so we're swapping it out today for some date sugar. And then we were already going to have fat-free Greek yogurt, but we increased it by 25 grams to make up for that moisture that's lost from swapping out the syrup for the date sugar. Then we need half a teaspoon of salt. Half a teaspoon. Salt. Okay. Set that aside. And then 1 teaspoon of almond extract. 1 teaspoon of almond extract. And I think that's about as much as I have in the bottle, so let's see. Yep, there's still enough left that we can put this aside. A very little bit goes a long way when it comes to the almond extract. Alright, and then I like to wipe everything down as I go because it just, because. And then for our raspberry mix in, we have 80 grams of raspberry puree. No, so this actually ended up being 50 grams of raspberry puree that I had made yesterday for a different recipe, and then we supplemented it with crushed freeze-dried raspberries to come up to the 80 grams. And then we're just using pistachio in some different parts. Okay, so let me read through this. We have our oven preheating to 325. Perfect, it's there. We've lined a 9x9 pan with parchment paper. See. Okay, I'm gonna go with it because I guess the idea, well, it makes sense because raspberry is a stronger flavor profile than pistachio. So making pistachio the base and then adding a little bit more pistachio to it and then adding raspberry to another half and then bringing them together is what's making it our pistachio and raspberry bar, but with a heavy pistachio base. But that makes sense. Okay, sorry, this is my first time making this and I just wanted to think through it because I thought, just based on like making cakes, that we were gonna make like a base dough and then divide it and then flavor each one. But this base dough is pistachio. It has pistachio in the base. And then we're boosting half of it with raspberry and then boosting the other half with more pistachio. But again, given how subtle pistachio is as a flavor compared to raspberry, in my brain, this math makes sense. This kitchen math makes sense. Okay, but we're gonna try it out. We're gonna see. And then that's the great thing. Sometimes I have to adjust recipes and I'm like, you know what? No, I want this flavor to be a little bit more forward, or let's adjust this. But that's why it's recipe development, right? Anyways, I'm rambling now. Let's start mixing. So what we need to do first is our dry. Let's combine our dries. Let's combine our dries. So we have, again, oat flour. This is King Arthur oat flour. Okay, great. Beautiful. We have our salt. Beautiful. We have our Truvani vanilla powder, protein powder. Beautiful. And then we're swapping out maple syrup for date sugar. So we're gonna put that in. And then I like to bake with chia seeds a lot, but there's different approaches to baking with chia seeds. Sometimes I put them into the dry mix. Sometimes they get bloomed with a wet ingredient so that they get activated into more of their gel-like. For this recipe, we're gonna put it in with our dry, and we're just gonna mix everything together, and it's just gonna be part of the dry mix for today. It's not gonna be activated into a gel. So we're gonna take all this dry and make sure everything is well incorporated. This smells really nice. The date sugar gives it a really nice smell. It's a little expensive, so in this economy, it's not like the best choice. But if you can find date sugar and use it as a swap out for sugar in your recipes, it's a good little swap-a-doodle moment. Okay, so as you can see, our chia seeds are nice and mixed into our batter. We're kind of like approaching this like as if it was a poppy seed kind of moment, right? Now we have our yogurt, our extract, and it wants me to mix this with the some of the pistachio paste. So it wants 180 grams of the pistachio paste. For this purpose, let's go ahead and use our Cuisinart for this. So let's pull this baby out. And actually, let's see, how much is this? No. This is 350. Okay, so more than enough. So we need, again, let me get my recipe out. We're gonna need 180 grams of this. So this is our beautiful pistachio paste that we made this morning. So that's 31, 43, 117, 151, and we need 180. 172, 175, 177, 182, 179, 179.8. Come on. 180. Boom. Okay, great. And we're gonna keep this out because we still need some of this. Okay, we don't need to put the lid on it. That's okay. And then I'm gonna put our scale away. And then we take our Greek yogurt and our almond extract. And we're gonna scrape this out of our little container and into our mixing bowl, just like so. Just like that. And again, a rubber spatula in the kitchen when you're baking, one of the greatest things you can have. Okay, so now we're gonna take our fresh pistachio paste, our fat-free Greek yogurt, and our almond extract, and we're gonna pull one of our little robots into play, our fun Cuisinart mixer. Now, I think I wanna use the balloon whisk. And let's see. Again, this is the first time I'm making this, so it's a little bit of experimenting and learning along the way. So not too bad. Okay, we're gonna scrape down the sides of our bowl. But not too bad. That actually did a pretty good job. Happy with that, but we're gonna mix it a little bit more. Great. So now I'm going to take this out. And now we have our base layer of our wet, and now we have our dry mixture. Okay, let's get this gloves. Kaya. Okay, great. So now we have our Greek yogurt, our almond extract, and part of our pistachio paste blended together like so. And now we're going to add our dry feels like a dough that could use hands. So I'm gonna put gloves on. Okay. Because this, looking at it, just look and feel vibes as of now, it's giving me like biscuit that like can be a little crumbly. But there's also enough fat in there that if you just combine it just right, you'll get everything together. So let's go ahead and with my hands, just kind of pinch and turn, pinch and turn, fold some of this into itself. Right. Trying to gather up as much of that dry mix into this so that when we divide this, it's as evenly incorporated as possible. Because we're going to divide this and then add some more pistachio to half of it, and then some raspberry to the other half. So let me actually now grab a dough scraper. Okay. This can still help. Let's scrape our bowl and just make sure it's all somewhat incorporated. So it's a thick, crumbly batter right now, with some chunks that have become more paste-like than others. So I want to break that up because we don't want one half to end up with a chunk. So let me actually now take my bench scraper and let's go ahead and cut up. Let's get to cutting up these chunks. I'm using some muscle today. Okay, switch hands. But this is helping mix up our dough. Okay. So now, woo, let's take our scale. Okay. Now we divide it in half. So, take our scale, and I have the weight of the bowl here somewhere. I need to put this somewhere else where I can find it easier. Metal bowl. Okay. Okay, calculator. We have, let's see, 638.2. No. We need the full weight. So 0 grams. 144.7. 144. Well, no. 1444.7 minus 638.2 equals divided by 2. 403.25. Okay, so around 400 is our target. So let's take, yes. Okay. So we need around 400 of this batter. And I'm trying to cut it up as it comes out. So again, because it's incorporated into a bit of like a fudgy, thick, grainy batter, I don't want it to become one chunk that's too much one thing or too much. Oh, another thing. Okay, we went over by a little bit. Okay, 403.20. 403.2. Boom. Okay, I'm calling it. All right, so we have split our batter into 2. Hi. Hi, Liam. Yes, my fridge is running. Should I go catch it? Hi, Thea. Thank you for saying hi. It's good to see you all. Okay, we're almost there. Okay, so now we need our raspberry mix, and this is 80 grams of raspberry glaze that was mixed together with crushed freeze-dried raspberries to total 80 grams. It was about 50 grams of glaze left over from a recipe from yesterday, which is great because now we're using that. And then we also made this morning some fresh pistachio paste. And so the other half of this is going to get a boost of 70 grams of more pistachio paste. So let's take a little bowl action. And we need 70 grams. 70. 33, 36, 38, 43, 47, 55, 58, 65, 68, 70. Okay, great. All right, so now we're going to take just that in there. Grab gloves again. Put on some gloves. Okay, so now we're going to take this beautiful freshly made pistachio paste, put it into the other half, and then both batters could use a touch of moisture. So we're going to give each of them a tablespoon of leche. 1 and 1. Great. Now, let's start with our pistachio one, since both have pistachio, and that way if our hands have pistachio and we start to mix our raspberry one, it's okay. So, we have this pistachio paste and this batter that need to come together again. This is definitely a lot more pliable, a lot more wet. So I'm going to take my bench scraper and again, just give it a little choppy chop just to break up that paste a little bit. Okay. It's so thick. It smells so good. It smells like pistachios. Okay, and then I'm gonna take my bowl scraper and we're just gonna scrape this. Okay, great. So now we have a beautiful pistachio base. So now we're going to take this and we're going to press it into our pan. Palm of your hand is actually pretty helpful. almost out to all the edges. Now I'm just trying to get everything evenly spread out. Okay. Great. So now, just go ahead, go through, make sure it's all even, but at least we now have it all spread out to the sides. Okay. Ooh, that was a lot harder than I thought it was gonna be. All right, so we have our bottom layer, our pistachio base layer. Now we have our raspberry layer that we need to mix and then do the same thing. Press it on top. So now I'll just do this one. This really feels like it needs more raspberry. I wonder. Oh, let me keep. Yeah, this like needs more raspberry. We're gonna do a little bit of just on the fly adjusting. I'm gonna take some raspberry preserves and we're going to throw some in here because this is not raspberry enough for a raspberry layer. Plus I could use the moisture. We're just going wild here. Also, this needed to be used up, so it's a good excuse to use up our boom mama. Okay, let me grab one more pair of gloves. All right, now this is already way more raspberry. So we just go ahead and tossed in some of that bon maman. And now we're mixing this up into a proper raspberry layer for our raspberry pistachio bars. Oh, I should have weighed that out. It's okay. I'll just make a note that I had to add like about 1/3 of a bon maman jar. But now this is giving raspberry. See? Now that is a raspberry layer. And it won't be so tough to push it out into the pan. Okay, so now we're gonna take our raspberry layer and oop. Go ahead and push this out. Okay, great. Now, what I want to do is, I'll do it after. Why did I throw this into light? After they're baked, what we're gonna do is give it like a simple little glaze, and then I want to crush raspberries and pistachios and layer them on top. But that'll be after they baked. Okay, so looks a little weird right now, but sometimes things do. So this is ready to pop into the oven. So we have a pistachio base on the bottom, and then we have pistachio mixed with raspberry layer on top, and we're gonna bake this and then let it cool. And then after it's cooled down properly, we're gonna cut them into little protein bars, and then there'll be little protein bars, pistachio and raspberry flavored protein bars. So let me pop this in the oven. And we need to bake for 15 minutes. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna have to try to make this again with the maple syrup to see if it makes a difference in the batter consistency, because the way I was envisioning this batter to come out, it should have been a little bit looser. Like I was hoping to like checkerboard, like I was hoping to put it into a piping bag and checkerboard out a pattern and then swirl it. But this batter was way too thick to do any kind of swirling. It needed to be like pressed out and then just baked out. And then what we'll see is like the two clean layers. When we cut them, if anything, maybe I can just cut them into fun shapes. But yeah, I'm gonna go back to the drawing board. I'm gonna make some notes and make some adjustments. Get some maple syrup at the store for the next time that we try this. But I do want, well, let's see how they come out, right? Who knows? Maybe when they come out, they're gonna be so good that I'm gonna be like, oh, this was great. Because, I mean, they are supposed to be protein bars, not brownies or cake. So maybe that thicker batter consistency is more in line with a protein bar, right? It did kind of remind me a little bit, the consistency reminded me a little bit of a Cliff Bar. So if that's kind of what we're going for, which I hadn't really thought about it like that, then maybe this is the way to do it. It's like, ooh, that's how I can pitch it. It's like an elevated Cliff Bar. Women in STEM. Okay, I'm gonna clear out the dishwasher that just finished doing a load so that I can load it up with all these dirty dishes that we just dirtied up right now while these little bars do their thing in the oven. So I think that's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow morning for another episode of Baking for My Future Boyfriend. Yeah, so if you haven't subscribed, feel free to hit subscribe. I also have a podcast. It's called Series of Fortunate Events. It's super fun. I'm working on scheduling some new guests, so feel free to check that out. My latest episode was with my personal trainer. I also have a Patreon where you get fun things like stickers and t-shirts in the mail, depending on what tier you sign up for. And I'm going to start sharing the recipes. Once I've made a recipe a few times and I'm very happy with it, I'm going to design them into little recipe cards that can be shared and downloaded. And I'm going to be sharing those over on the Patreon at every level, including the free level. So you can sign up even at the free level over at the Patreon and you'll get something as a thank you for supporting. So that's patreon.com/MeMeCherry Productions. Again, the podcast is Series of Fortunate Events, or Sophie, SOFE, for Series of Fortunate Events. Yeah, please come back, hang out with me again. And if I don't see you again, I really, really hope you have a wonderful life. I love you. Bye.